Hello everybody, I'm Richard Gong of Work to Live podcast version. I think this is a miracle that, I could greet without stuttering. So I have just stuttered, but actually, I think this is a miracle for me. And that is because, everybody is, really difficult. I'm talking about the word everybody, and which has a difficult pronunciation for me. And by the way, I'm a native speaker of English language, and my mother tongue is Japanese language, and I live in Japan, which is an East Asian country. And so so far Japan is a developed country, but actually, this as you know, so I don't know whether you know or not, but actually, this country has a declining population or dwindling population. So thinking about which, so the future of this country is really dark or dim. So which is why, people and the local people are worried about whether they should go away from this country or not, and which is the situation of my country. And so which is how should I say, which is a background why I bought some stocks of the huge companies located in Western European countries or other advanced countries, which means so, and one of which is, wait a moment please, so this, I should tell you the title and the conclusion of this episode so that you can find out which company I chose to buy the stocks. Yeah. So anyway, so the title is, how much was the price of a share of EDF? Did the French government pay a lot? And the conclusion is, I'm not so well off limiting to the sales of shares of EDF. So first of all, whether you ask me, not whether you ask me, I'm sorry, this is a grammatical mistake. So first of all, if you ask me, or when you ask me whether I'm rich or not, so I can't tell the answer. I can't tell you the answer, or I can't say the answer. I can't. Yeah, I can't tell you the answer. Or I can't. Yeah, I can't. I never disclose. I never disclose the answer to that question whether I'm rich or not. And so if you, to start with, it's up to this disposable income of each person. So which is why, for example, so if my income is lower than yours, so I may be possibly well off because one of the possible reasons is that, so my disposable income is really high, or my disposable income is really affluent, or my disposable income is abundant, which is why, so I may be well off. But actually, so if my income is higher than yours, but actually, so so you may be better off. And one of the possible reasons is that your so you have disposable income higher or more than mine. So, and the place you live in may have, this is a possibility. Or what I'm talking about is just a possibility. So your country may have lower cost of livings, which is possible. For example, so there's a fact that there's a fact that some Japanese people has immigrated into Southeast Asian countries. That is because those countries have lower cost of livings anyway. And EDF is what I'm going to talk about. So what EDF stands for, the meaning of the abbreviation of EDF is that, I don't know the correct, way of reading that company, but actually, so the name is Electricité de France, or Electricité de France. I don't know. I can't pronounce French language well. Well, to start with, I don't know how to use French language. I have no idea. I have no idea about how to use French language. And but actually, so I bought in the past. In the past, I bought stocks of EDF, which is a fact. And so this time, the EDF EDF decided to not naturalize, but nationalize. French, not the EDF didn't decide, but it's French government. I'm sorry, that's a mistake. What I have just told you is a mistake. So the correct information is that, so it's French government which decided to nationalize EDF or electricity difference, which means so that is a electric power corporation. Like many countries have their own electric power corporations, and in the case of, for example, in the case of South Korea, that is KEPCO or so KEPCO is maybe Korea Electric Power Corporation, and in the case of my country, so the largest electric power corporation is, I don't know whether South Korean electric power corporation is really a corporation or not, but actually, so so in my mother tongue, that has, so how should I say, so corporation, such a word is incorporated into the name of the corporation in the case of South Korea. And by the way, my country has, not my company, but my country has, so TEPCO or Tokyo Electric Power Corporation. I don't know the exact I don't know the exact words of the name of that country, or not country but company. Yeah, I could remember that, maybe that became a holdings, not just a Tokyo Electric Power Corporation, but actually that became a holding, that became a holding, owning many owning stocks of subsidiary companies belonging to the holdings. Yeah. Anyway, that is maybe the current structure, or the current structure of that company is that, there is a holdings, and which owns the subsidiary companies belonging to that holding, which I think is the situation of that company. That company is that electric company in my in the region I live in, anyway. So there's a, how should I say, there's an equivalent to that. There's an equivalent to those. I mean, electric power corporations, and EDF is the largest one in France, maybe. And which is why I bought some stocks of that company in the past. Maybe that was so more than 5 years ago, or more than 5 years before this present time, or this more than 5 years before this time. And this is I'm recording this episode in the end of December in 2022. So it's a turn of a year, and so the next year is 2023, and in which the last Ukrainian war has been proceeded, or the last Ukrainian war has lasted, and that has been prolonged. That war has been prolonged, unfortunately. And what I should tell you is that it's the price of just the share of EDF, and whether I could get some benefit. So I have created an episode in the past before this one, and in that episode I have told you that, maybe what I'm going to get is a loss, or which means the when it comes to the transaction of selling the shares of EDF. So the how should I say, the financial situation or the transaction, and it's going to end up with, or the transaction would end up with being internet or stuff like such a thing was what I have told you, or not in the black. So the result was not in the black, but the result of the transaction would be in the red, or the minus is going to be produced, or I'm going to lose some amount of money by the transaction of selling the shares of EDF. And that is because, so why I got lost, and why I decide, why I have had to sell those stocks of EDF is that, because So French government decided to nationalize the company EDF. So which is why, so I had to say, at first that company announced that, not that company, French government announced that, French government was going to buy buy stocks from shareholders, and the price of a share of EDF is, I mean, the price of one share or one stock of EDF is, wait a moment please, $12, not $20, $12, and maybe when I bought that stock, so yeah, when I bought that stock, the stock price was 13 or 14 euros. So, and but actually, so in the case of my country, the local currency was Japanese yen has dropped, or which means, so the meaning of what I'm saying is that, so the value of Japanese yen was the value of the local currency in my country has been lowered. So which is why, so maybe one euro is with 140, or approximately 140 Japanese yen. So which is a situation, or which is the value of the local currency of my country anyway. And which is why, so roughly saying there is no benefit, no loss. So which is why, so so the conclusion is that, as I wrote, so wait a moment please, I should tell you the conclusion again. The conclusion is, I'm not so well off limiting to the sales of shares of EDF, but I had rather got I had rather got a loss by the transaction of buying the shares of EDF in the past, and selling those shares of EDF in this present time, or in the near future actually. So anyway, so and I'm thinking of getting the money, getting the money. I'm supposed to be able to get by selling the stocks of EDF in the form of euro. So I'm sorry for my complicated explanation, because I'm a non-native speaker of English language. So which is why, so of course, there are many Japanese people and many non-native speakers of English language who can speak English really well. For example, so non-native people can speak English better than I do, but actually, so my mother tongue is clearly, so I mean, so linguistically speaking, was in terms of language, or in terms of if there are some distances between one language and another. So my language is really different from English language, and my language is said to be really close to Hungarian language in the case of European languages. And by the way, so when it comes to the surplus or the loss of the transactions of buying and selling the stocks of EDF, what I'm going to get is a loss, or my budget of the transaction was a financial result of the transaction limiting to ETF is going to be in the red, not in the black. So which is what maybe there is no, or there is a surplus of minus, which I think is a result of the transaction, or of selling the stocks of EDF. So which is why, so limiting to the sales of the shares of EDF, I'm not well off. And I'm thinking, so by the way, so I would still recommend that you buy stocks of companies of infrastructures. For example, the EDF is one of the one of the instance in this case, and in the past in the past, the stocks of EDF had been recommendable, but actually, so the stock price of EDF, the stock price of EDF began to decrease just after I bought the shares of EDF, and maybe it was 5 or 6 years before this time, and after which, so before I bought the stocks of EDF, so I could check out the chart of the stock price of EDF, and when I when I began to think of when I began to think of was it when I began to think about whether I should purchase the shares of EDF or not, maybe it was maybe 5 or 6 years before this time, and the stock price was continuously dropping, so which is why, so I decided to buy them, and I expected that the stock price would surge again, because that is a company of that is an electric power corporation, so which is why, so EDF was an electric power corporation, which is why, so someday the stock price of that company would rise again. But actually, so unfortunately, my my anticipation, or my expectation, or my speculation was was failed, or my speculation turned out to be wrong, or my guesswork turned out to be wrong, or my expectation turned out to be wrong, or anyway, that is a mistake. My anticipation became a mistake, and the stock price kept going down until the decision of buying stock, or nationalizing ETF, which was a decision made by French government, and after the decision, so the stock price began to surge again. So, but which is why, so so maybe, which is why, so although I'm going to get a loss, but actually the loss is not a severe price. Was the monetary value was the amount of the loss would not be a severe price. Was the loss would not be severe, which is a situation, or which is a result of the transaction of buying and selling the stocks of EDF. So which is what I wanted to know this time. So I'm going to end this episode, and I have told you the titles and the conclusion of this episode twice. So which is why, so anyway, the title is how much was the price of a share of EDF, and 12 euros, not $12. And did the French government pay a lot? No, maybe not, I think. And the conclusion is I'm not so well off limiting to the sales of shares of ETF, and I'm not well off and limiting to ETF, and if you ask me whether I'm well off or not, so in general, I don't tell you the answer. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. See you.